Death is very uncomfortable for all of us, except for the dead, because they have already found a really big way of dealing with this. But those of us left behind, it's really just uncomfortable. We're not taught how to deal with grief in general, much less taught to deal with other people's grief. Other people that are in emotional or mental pain, that leaves us unsettled. Because of this, I want to offer you a few tips on dealing with people that are in grief. A few things that you should never say. Maybe a couple of things that you can do. But a few things that will ease this for you and for them as well. First off, you have to know that grief is absolutely maddening. People in grief, people who are suffering loss, are actually in a state of shock. And this shock can last for weeks. For some people, it lasts for years. And the point I want you to get is that what makes sense to you and what makes sense to them are two different things. So don't be a Spock. Don't try and use logic. It's not going to work. A definite no. Don't ever say, I understand. You don't understand. Your cat dying when you were 13 has nothing to do with what happened to me when Chris died. Your grandma who died in her sleep when she was 97, again, has nothing to do with what happened to me when Chris died. Now, it doesn't mean that these moments are not traumatic for you. It doesn't mean that you don't still have some kind of emotional charge with this. But it means that it's not the same thing. Pain is always personal. A loss is always private. You don't know what dreams died when Chris died. You don't know. You have no idea what future I buried when I put his ashes in the ground. Don't ever say you understand, because it's just impossible for you to do that. Even me, from my vantage point, I had a friend whose lover passed away a couple of months ago. I know how this would feel for me, but I really don't know how it felt for him. Another thing not to do, and it's kindness that makes people do this, don't try and make me feel better, okay? Jokes are not welcome, and there's this thing that people do, this at least statements. At least the suffering's over. At least he's in a better space. What I heard from really way too many people, because Chris had been sick for such a long time, was at least you knew it was coming. At least you were prepared. I probably looked at that time the way I look now. And I have to tell you that the reason you look composed during this time is because of shock. You're in shock. I was in shock. I may have looked fine, but I have to tell you, there was a Texas Chainsaw Massacre going on in this head. And I was Leatherface. And I was also each and every one of those teenagers. It was a bloodbath. Don't make me feel better. Sometimes there really is no silver lining. Another thing not to do, don't proselytize. This is really a bad time to look for converts. It doesn't matter what you believe, Buddhist, agnostic, Catholic. Now is not the time to share your worldview with me. I have a really good friend. His name is Andrew. He is an avowed atheist. He called me. because he really cared, which was nice. But what he said was, be happy. Christ still exists in your brain. Really? That's supposed to settle me at this time? My mother called too. I love my mother, but she spewed forth religious dogma like Linda Blair in The Exorcist. Well, God's doing this, God's doing that, God's taking care of him and holding him in warm hugs. And I said, was there a good reason why he couldn't do any of that when he was here with me? Your religious stuff, your irreligious stuff, your personal viewpoints, they're not going to work. Keep those to yourself. In time, for me and for other people I've spoken to, we ask. We will actually call our friends and say, when do you think this means? What do you think happened? And I had nice conversations with some very dear friends of mine, but the two people I never called were Andrew and my mother. If there's three things that you can do, three very small things. One of them is to be quiet. The kindest thing you can do for someone who is suffering from this kind of loss, if they're sitting, if they're standing, get next to them. Just stand beside them. If you're brave enough, hold their hand. Put your arm on their shoulder and just let them cry. Because people won't do this. People will tell you, buck up, buck up. People will tell you, be strong. How? The other two things to do is be calm. And if you can't do anything else, just be there.